Business leader looking for next? I was. Are you an athlete transitioning to next? I wasn't. If you're looking for your next, this is the space for you. This is the Business Athlete Performance Lab. Hi, I'm Keith Bilous, and this is Live in the Lab. All right. A little bit of weirdness in front of the camera there for anybody who's watching. So I'm like, hey, where's the button? Where's the button? I can't get it going. How did you go viral on TikTok? You were on America's Got Talent. How much do you get paid to be on AGT? Oh, you didn't get paid. Keith and Steve here in Live in the Lab.
You're
What's
a great
up,
interviewer.
Baplites?
I love it.
48 miles, 48 hours. And not just once. You ain't seen nothing yet. I hit 50 last time, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are to keep. You have no time for the BS that much of society seems to put on the table. Why is that? What you're talking about is real right now. There's just no bullshit here, but it's just real. We brought you in with some Marley. I said, Joseph, let's talk music for a second. You said, Keith, oldies, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've never talked to a sir before. Why are you a sir? In many ways, we're the same story. I came from nothing. You came from nothing. I think the old saying goes that if you want a trophy, you climb Everest. If you want respect, you climb K2. I've built an AI myself, and it's pretty fascinating when you can have a conversation with yourself with your own knowledge. Have you done that before? Why are we rushing to make these tools if all they're going to do is hurt humanity? Does the world need an Oppenheimer moment with AI?
What a fun show.
I'm your chief Bapl. I'm Keith Bilous, and I'm live in the lab. Oh, I'm live all right. Yeah. Got the old toque on today. Put the hats away. I'll bring them out, of course. Hats, toques, all the same. I like the headwear. It's a nice accessory. Covers up it's funny, it covers up the parking lot on my forehead here. People are like, are you insecure about your forehead, Keith? Not at all. Frankly, not insecure about it at all. Nope. Just like to make fun of it, because we all have them. Some of you guys out there got bigger foreheads than some other guys. Some of you guys have no hair at all. We all like our hats, our head accessories. I know y'all do. You ever match your hats with your shoes? Yeah, breaks up the color scheme quite nice. Whoa, what a week it's been. It's Thursday. I wake up today with a ton of vitamin G. John Graham Harper. Vitamin G. Oh, I love that sound of vitamin G. Fellow Baplites, it is a term that we are now going to adopt in our league of business athletes. The fuel of vitamin G. Courtesy, once again, of John Graham Harper. What's vitamin G, you're wondering? What is vitamin G? It's not guilt. Guilt that you're not doing something. Guilt that you're sitting there in your own mirror trying to figure shit out. No. Vitamin G is gratitude. If we all wake up every single day and take some vitamin G, think about it. Think about how powerful you are going to be as a Baplite and as a superhero for your friends, your family, your own mirror, and for the world around you. So take that vitamin G. Start your day with it. Make it part of your living tasks. Living tasks? Keith, what's a living task? I'll tell you what a living task is. Some of you do them, some of you don't. I know you. Here's what I do every single day. It's part of my list of living tasks. Tasks have a negative connotation. I know they do. But let's just assume that they're a task. I gotta take care of my heart, so I get on the bike. I gotta take care of my mind and my body and my agility and my mobility, so I do some yoga. Gotta take care of my strength, so I lift weights. Got to take care of my relationships. So I hug and I love my family daily, making a point. I need clarity. I got to release my stress. I need that post-nut clarity. So I make sure that I have sex. It keeps that relationship strong. It allows me to function for the rest of my day. for the rest of my week. Come on, you all know it. Nobody's talking about it, so I'm going to. We're going to talk about it here in the lab. It's part of the League of Business Athletes, all you Baplites out there. Yesterday's show, Dr. Lynn Anderson talking about post-nut clarity and the value it brings to us men, when we're about to make a big decision. So if you want to make a big decision today, if you're stuck right now, you're being indecisive, go have some sex. Today's show, we're coming in with Tim Miner, who's joining us from New York, New York. Really, Keith? Is that your New York accent? It is today. I got a Mac over here. I always want to touch the screen. I wonder if Apple's ever going to make it a Mac with a touch screen. Tim Miner, AI strategist. We're going to dig back into AI again. Oh, I like the topic. I love tech. And I know you as my audience, our audience, fellow Baplites, fellow business athletes, those aspiring to join the League of Business Athletes. I know you all love your tech, but you sit back and you scratch your head. I just decided to take a step further. I took it from scratching my head to doing something about it. And I just like to nerd out about it on a daily basis. I love it. I read about it every single day. It keeps me energized. And then I want to share it with you guys. Tim Miner. He's over there on the screen waiting. So why don't we pivot our conversation and welcome Tim Miner into the lab before we bring some... Tim?
Yes, I'm here.
Are you on the right show?
I am. I just don't have much time because I got to run home and have sex after that intro. I know exactly what I'm missing. I need to go do this. So let's get the show over quick because I know what I need now.
This is the best opener ever. I could not have predicted this, but I got to tell you, if you go listen to yesterday's show, we talked to Dr. Lynn Anderson that men have a sense of clarity, post-nut clarity, as we men know, after we've had an orgasm. And there's science behind it. So I was saying to the audience, if you're stuck, just go home and have sex. It doesn't have to be with your wife or your partner or your lover. Just go have sex.
Well, yeah, it's better if it's with your like partner, though. Makes it less complicated.
There's truth to that, yes. But here's the thing in the lab. We carry grace and we have no judgment. We want all involved. But pivoting, Tim, you are an AI expert. So when I saw that we were chatting this week, I get all excited and nerdy, because if I can use that term lovingly, because I like geeking out about this stuff because it fascinates me. And I suspect that you talk about it every single day. Tell the audience who Tim Miner is.
Tim Miner is CEO of a company called By the People Technologies. We are a group of AI strategists. We're basically helping people implement AI within their business and in their personal lives to just make them more competitive in whatever it is that they do. So there's all kinds of different values that it can have, but AI can be part of anything that you've got going.
Tim, I got to think, how long has your AI business been around?
It's only been around for about a year, but I've been in the AI business since 2018. So I've been in what's that, 5 years, 6 years, something like that now.
Okay, so there's really two chapters to your story, right? So you were doing something that nobody really paid attention to until last November, when Sam Altman and the gang decided to launch ChatGPT, and then all of a sudden he's been this well-anointed king and expert, and I mean that with the greatest respect. And you're like, oh yeah, I've been doing this forever. What the hell are you guys talking about? So talk about chapter 1 of AI, Tim, and then talk about how your world changed last November. Let's first start pre-last November.
So pre-last November, I was working with a company that no longer exists right now, but I was basically trying to get people to implement better Salesforce data into Salesforce using natural language processing, natural language generation. That was the AI part of it. The fact that you could speak to your phone, the fact that phone could speak to you, all those things were possible and created. What we were working on as far as just the real large language models was the ability to basically query and be a human in front of the computer to allow the computer to then take the data in that you have to give it, right? The problem is we've developed these whole computer programs. Unfortunately, we just don't, as humans, speak their language. We don't. They don't speak our language. We don't speak their language. So what we were trying to do is make it easier to get the data that I have, like Salesforce data. Oh, I just talked to a client, just told me this, that get that kind of all together put into the system so that it can be data after. That's what we were trying to do before. And then, as you rightly said, last week of November, suddenly ChatGPT came up and my life spun around. It was a completely different, it's been party ever since, as they say.
I bet, because prior to that, it was really a world of if and then, right? If this happens, then this happens, right? And it was not really a natural large. So then all of a sudden, these large language models become released. And Tim, explain to the audience of our guys out there, just this in a simplified term of what's a large language model.
Well, a large language model is basically a model that allows you to use natural language, right? English in our case, without a specificity of exactly where the verb or the noun is or the command that you're putting in there to basically speak naturally to the computer and then have the computer then give you a natural response back. That's all it is. That's all it says. Now, behind that are things like large foundational models like ChatGPT that basically have this huge neural network that go recreate your answer. First of all, create the understanding of your question, and then recreate what that answer should be based on the neural network that they have. Used to exist, right? These existed long before.
Yeah.
They've been around. IBM's had one for God knows how long. The problem is when this is the thing that I think ChatGPT did is it democratized everything. Now everybody with a simple internet access can have access to some of the largest computer systems out there to get the information they want to. It wasn't possible before. So now things are changing, right? Our whole cultural shift that's going on. Suddenly, big companies that had their big company systems and therefore relied on that as the competitive advantage, they're going to lose that. Suddenly,
It,
the small guy with the three-person company is going to be able to do what they do in a very short period of time.
it's the same cultural shift that happened when the iPhone was released by Apple, wasn't it, Tim? Like very much.
To a certain extent, but the big thing is you suddenly have given everybody who has an access to the internet the ability to access terabytes of data that they used to never have, never knew that they needed if they could have it. Now
Mhm.
they can suddenly, through the natural language processing capability, start asking it questions like, write me an essay on Abraham Lincoln, and it comes back with an essay on Abraham Lincoln. Those kinds of things used to exist. And again, the other thing we have to give the OpenAI guys at least someone, they also built guardrails before this. This was the third attempt at opening a large language model. First was by Google, then came Meta, right? It used to be Facebook at the same time. It just went south really quickly. Went deep into dark hate speech. It went into bad areas very
Well, so did
quickly
Microsoft.
because
Microsoft.
it didn't have the guardrails. But
Yes.
they didn't have the guardrails on it. So clearly things went wrong right away.
Mhm.
So now this was the first time that it could live because it had the guardrails. You could say, build me a bomb to kill many people, and it would say, I don't do those kind of things, right? It would be able to say that it's not doing it naturally because it can't, because it probably can. It's just not doing it because they put guardrails up to keep it from happening.
Tim, I'm a self-professed AI nerd. I make that out there. I love the tech, but I
Okay.
speak to athletes, business leaders who are reticent to change, who don't trust it and its potential
Hmm.
to change their lives. What would you say to someone? What would you say to someone to encourage someone in their shoes to embrace it, weave it into their life?
One of the things we do, my company, we teach web prompt engineering classes over webinars. And the thing is, well, 60% of the people I spoke to say, yeah, I've tried ChatGPT as an example. I've tried it to give a product description or something like that, gave me garbage back. I don't know what the big deal is. What is this? This thing, what's the big hype all around this? And the reality is, the hype all around it is the fact that you need to know how to actually speak to it. You need to give it all the context of information you give to get the right things back out. And then it'll surprise the poop out of you what good it can do, right? And then I try to get people to understand, if you understand how it really works, it's nothing more than this little assistant sitting right next to you, like an R2D2, right? That goes around with you every day, who has watched every TED talk and memorized them, who's read every book and memorized those, and knows everything about everything, who is there to help you do better. So if you could start dreaming, what could you do better? If we don't know how to solve global warming right now, let's start asking the systems to help us. What can I do to stop global warming? If that's your passion. If I don't know what my career trajectory should be, start asking ChatGPT,
Yeah.
what's the process? How can I change some of these things? And you'd be surprised how you can suddenly improve and become, in parts, a better human because you have.
So then, if I was to ask you a question, if you were speaking with a retired athlete and he asked you what his first steps would be to integrate AI into his post athletic career, I'm going to suspect the answer you would give him would be ask ChatGPT.
Yes, yes. Of course, I would ask him, and I would ask him to first do that. But he needs to learn. There's some basics you got to learn, right? How can you ask it? If all you ask it, hey, give me an essay on Abraham Lincoln. That's it. Then you're just going to be disappointed with what you get back, right? But
Mhm.
if you say, I'd really like to know some specific things about Abraham Lincoln that I haven't studied that before. And by the way, give me some other insights on some other areas. You'd be surprised what you can suddenly learn out of that. And the more knowledge we have that we can suddenly apply towards things that we have are going to make us different people altogether. But you're right, you have to start that process. What do the Germans say? Hunger comes with eating, right? So once you start doing things like that, then you're going to start opening up your mind and say, wow, I didn't know. I didn't know. Number one, I didn't know it. Number two, I didn't know this is a fascinating world, and you'll be in a completely different area. So the first area is find out what your passions is. One of the things we teach people in our classes, try to get a prompt together that has ChatGPT asking you questions. You always think this whole prompting thing, I got to ask ChatGPT some intelligent, but bullshit. Why don't you just put ChatGPT in a position to start asking you questions? And we start doing things like saying, okay, teach me what is my passion. What are the things I'm passionate about? What do you like? Man, I like sports. What kind of sports? I like football. What kind of football? American football, European football, American football, professional or college. And it's starting to whittle down this massive amount of information that it has access to down to your specific question. What is my niche? What is the thing I need to focus on? And you can just get it into a question answer game and get it into it and say, hey,
Mhm.
listen, we need to start talking about this stuff. Really? Don't solve these problems for me. Tell me how I should go about solving these problems. It's a great way of changing your prompts, right? Now you're no longer fixing on, I need an answer. Instead, you're thinking about, what do I need to do to learn the process to get an answer? Completely different way of looking at things.
It isn't it, Tim? You talk about prompt engineering. Some members of our audience might not be purely familiar with this idea of prompt engineering, but it's really talking to the GPT, isn't it, Tim?
It is, yeah, yeah. A prompt is basically an input to a large language model, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
What's the recipe for best buttermilk biscuits? Give me an essay on Abraham Lincoln, right? That is a prompt, something that you put into the large language model so that you get something back out of it. Prompt engineering is thinking about how can I change that prompt in such a way that will help me get something better back. In other words, what is something better, right? Getting something better from a large language model is nothing more than something that's going to meet your expectations. I really wanted to know what is my niche in life and how do I learn what I need to learn to find those things out. That's what I wanted to know. And all you did is gave me baseball scores, right? Clearly something happened, right? But it is a dumb computer. So you just need to learn to prompt it and ask it the right questions so that you can start getting back the things that you actually wanted to have. And that's what prompt engineering is.
One of the
Simple.
thing, one of the things I have really loved about the introduction of large language models, Chat GPT, has been my ability to argue with anybody, Tim, and I think you're going to be on my team with this one, who says, well, Keith, I don't really have time to work out, or I don't have time to take care of myself personally. I don't have time to go for a walk. Because
Mhm.
I believe if you're embracing AI, or let me ask you the question, how can AI and prompt engineering help serial entrepreneurs, people who are really busy,
Mm.
streamline their operations and find more time for themselves? Because you've already solved it and I have solved it. How can our
Mhm.
audience figure that out, Tim?
I think it's the thing. Everybody has a different answer to that, right? That's the whole thing. Yes, I can tell you what it is for me, and it might be something different for you. And either one of our stories are probably not an answer for the third guy listening.
But I
So
think
on,
it's this
right?
idea of embracing an AI, right? So it's this idea of perhaps helping it, and you said it a few moments ago, but it's this sidekick sitting on your desk. Uh,
Hmm.
Neglecting it is not going to help you find 30 minutes in a day. So if you say to me you're too busy to go for a walk or take care of yourself, then you're not using AI to your advantage.
That's true.
Right.
So what you do is you ask AI, listen, I am in a process right now. I need to do this. I need to get to this certain point of doing that. What do you think my first step should be? What should I be happy with after the first week of moving on this new plan that's suddenly going to say, hey, man, I'm on my way, right? What's going to get me there? And then let it map out those stages going forward. Again, what you're asking for is you're asking for a definition of a process rather than give me the solution. Oh, what do you need to do? Oh, you need to exercise more and eat less. Well, hello, I really needed that information because I could have not gotten that anywhere else. Of course, I knew that already. But what step me through the process? Or here's another thing, back to that questioning thing. Ask me start questions about my lifestyle and everything so that you can tell me what I need to change and need to take steps at changing so we can do it better. What do you do every day? Well, I love to watch TV. How much TV do you watch? I usually watch about 5 or 6 hours a day. Have you tried cutting that down, getting some of those shows out, and in that time, go for a walk or listen to a podcast?
Mhm.
Hello, all those kind of things. Have you tried some of that? Rather than trying to get away from it, because everything you do, you can't just say stop doing it, right? That usually never works in a change, but it needs to be replaced with something else. So ask ChatGPT, what should I replace this with to keep me engaged in what I'm doing? Now, why would ChatGPT know this stuff? Again, ChatGPT has listened to every one of the TED Talks out there of people that have changed their lifestyle for the better. He's read every book there is, and he's memorized every one of them. So he's not going to know all the answers, but you're going to get some good answers out of what he's got to say.
I noticed,
And I do
Tim, that
say,
I was just was just going to say call you out. I noticed that you called ChatGPT he. Is there
yes,
do you have a bias, or is that just something that's part of your pitch? That's funny, man. That's fucking funny.
I'm sure there is, but Freud would have fun with that for sure.
So I have to ask you: do you use ChatGPT on your mobile, and do you talk to it? And
I do.
yeah?
I
So I
do.
talk to he as well, and it's
I
pretty
do.
spectacular, isn't it?
It's pretty cool. Yeah. One of the things I use lots of times, and just because we're talking about athletes at a certain
Yeah.
time, it's always good to get information from a doctor. I don't in any way think that AI is going to ever replace doctors, but the problem is with doctors, they're got this massive amount of information that they're dealing with. They
Yes.
cannot be the specialist of everything. There's no way. So when
Yes.
you've got that, oh, my big toe hurts, put it into ChatGPT and see what the options could be. Maybe there's something you can do that'll fix that before you go run off to the doctor to do that. Not that's going
Yes.
to replace a doctor again. And if it still doesn't help after you've done everything ChatGPT, go tell even ChatGPT will tell you need to go tell a doctor this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in the meantime, try this and this. There's the story that's been in the press out quite a bit lately. A lady has a son who's in deep pain. She has no idea why. Went to 17 different doctors, and they all said, I don't know what it is. Take 2 aspirin, call me in the morning, right? Nothing helped. She finally got on ChatGPT. And I'm not saying that ChatGPT was better, but ChatGPT has the amazing ability of going through massive amounts of data and
Mhm.
finding little needles in haystacks. That's what it does. And by the way, a doctor does not. That's not what his job is, right? Is
Yeah.
to find that needle in a haystack. So she took this, then went over to a doctor, and the doctor looked at it again, the 17th doctor she talked to, and said, yeah, probably is a pretty good diagnosis. Let's try that. And sure enough, that healed the kid. So I think there's nothing wrong with doing triage, as we call it, with a chat
Yes.
GPT and trying to ask it certain things. I've had some shoulder issues and things like that, like everybody getting older does. And it's given me some exercises that I think are just fantastic. I'm not going to put physical therapists out of business at all, but you know what? It helps augment what I'm doing
Mhm.
with their capabilities.
Tim, I recently got some blood work done, my biomarkers done, and I sat down with
Mm,
three different
good.
large language models, and I shared my
Mm,
biomarkers with all three of them, and it was a brilliant
great.
experience, Tim, because it's like I sat with three different doctors. And to your point, I wasn't looking to replace doctors, but to be able to have a back and forth with something, or he sit back and have a conversation with it, or he for on three different AIs was really quite fast. I got the same answers, Tim, across the three, but delivered differently, just like a doctor would deliver it differently. You follow me? So it
Yes.
was a great experience for me, frankly. It really was a great experience.
For me, when I've gone on my blood work with a doctor. I said, the doctor has very little time, right? He's got to get
Yes.
to the next patient. So he's going to find out some highlights. These are the things you need to know. By the way, this cholesterol's too high. You need to worry about your testosterone. Those things he'll pick out, right? Those things.
Yes.
But the nice thing is putting it in the whole document in the ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, tell me what this tells me. and then
Yeah.
go through everything that it finds in there. It's not going to find anything that the doctor didn't find, but it's going to explain everything else on the side. And you know what? We all want to know that kind of stuff, but our doctors just don't
Yes.
have time to give us all the information we have.
Tim, here's a
So
question
that's
for
cool
you
stuff.
about. Yeah, thank you, Tim. Let's pivot, into business and
Hmm.
business leaders and organizations and work professionals. They value work ethic. It's a cultural thing. Work ethic, right? How hard you're working,
Hmm.
hustle, grinding.
Hmm.
How is AI going to enhance or harm the culture or that
Hmm.
term within organizations? This concept of work ethic. If you're just using AI to benefit yourself all the time, does this
Hmm.
concept of work ethic change?
I don't think so, because I think one of the work ethics that we're always worried, whether you have an ethical responsibility to yourself or
Mhm.
to your family or to the company you work for and get a paycheck, we all have that ethical responsibility to get the most done we can with the least amount of time, right? We do. We just do. If it takes you, should have taken you 5 minutes, or it should have taken you 15 minutes to write this email, but you only wrote it in five, that doesn't mean that you got 10 minutes to do absolutely nothing or back to Candy Crush or something like that. It just means you can answer three of those emails within a 15-minute period much better than you could before, right? I am personally a pretty good writer, right? I write stuff pretty well. ChatGPT always pre-writes something for me. Then I'll go back and change things around a little bit and say, nah, I wouldn't say it like that. You missed out on that part. Try
Yeah.
it again. Either I send it back into ChatGPT, try it again, give me a new one, or bring it back like you would an assistant, right? It's the same
Yes.
way you would
Yes.
manage an assistant,
Yes.
right? Same thing. Then, but I wouldn't let, and this is the other thing everybody gets, because everybody's worried about hallucination, right? And we should be worried about hallucination to a certain extent. Maybe not as much as the New York Times has us worrying about it, but still we should. The reality is, when I get something back from ChatGPT, I'm never going to trust it 100% to say, listen, it's Monday morning. I got 20 new emails. You go answer them for me. I trust you. I'll never get to that point, because I wouldn't even trust my assistant to do that. So I'm going to
Ah,
use something that's going to take care of that to do that. What?
so
Did I catch you on something?
yeah, I would debate you there, Tim. I would debate that point
Mhm.
basically, essentially, with what was released this week, right? So we know that OpenAI released the whole suite of individual GPTs that we all can build. I'm going to
Yeah.
suggest to you that when you and I get back on the show here within the next 12 months, that our GPTs will book those meetings, and I'll suggest to you that over time, our GPTs will do a lot of the interactions that that bring you and I together so that you and I can spend more human time together.
Mhm. Okay, I would agree with that. I agree with that, because there's a lot of administrative stuff that we did, right? I might have used something like Calendly to help I
Yes,
at least automate stuff from my side, but it took somebody with a calendar looking at Calendly to make that
correct.
good. That could have been automatic, right? That could have been just easily put together. Do we want to leave it up to them alone right now, because they don't know a lot of other basics? I hate doing these shows at 6 o'clock in the evening. All
Right.
these things that go up in there together, those are the things it still has to learn to get to that point where I'm going to trust it enough to do that.
So then, Tim, do you think that AI cultivate exactly? That's the new AI language. Let's just try that
Mm,
again. Do
okay.
you think that AI cultivates a culture of discipline, or does AI cultivate a culture of laziness?
I think it cultivate. I'm sure it could cultivate. Yes, it could become laziness. Don't get me wrong. What should I say? A similar thing is the typewriter and the computer. Computer with a printer came out one day. Before that, we had a typewriter. The guy who sits on the computer and says, "Give me three of these mails that are going out, not even emails, mails that are going to be printed out. Give it to me with different names. Three of them." Was he lazy or was he efficient? You could ask both. You could look at it both ways. I would say he's becoming more efficient, to the point that now we expect, if you got three of these to get out, it should take you no more than 30 seconds to make them on the paper, right?
Mhm.
But that's because I'm way past the typewriter stage. Right now, we're still in the I gotta do all this stuff stage. So if we use ChatGPT to help me do that kind of stuff, we could be putting them, are you just being lazy? Yes, but being also more efficient. I'll tell you the truth, I'm in a position right now. every Tom, Dick, and Harry has AI type of consulting that they want to do. Man, I used to be alone where most people say, wow, it's amazing that you do this. I've never heard of this before. Now it's, oh, not again, not another ChatGPT guy coming up. So I've got to fight for differentiation all over in the market nowadays, and I got to work hard at it. So is it ChatGPT helping me work hard? It is. It's helping me get my information out better, faster, and more congruent. So every new tool, every new technology, you could say, "Oh gosh, she used to wash everything by hand. Now she's got a washing machine to do that." But did it make us better? Yes, it did. And so we can't just look at the fact that you can be used for laziness to say, "Okay, the technology is bad." Instead, we got to say, "I'm not going to
Mhm,
use it for
mhm,
laziness.
mhm.
I'm going to do more. I'm going
Yeah.
to do more with my life." Right? That's what we have to say as humans.
Thank you for sharing with me that it's become competitive over the last 12 months, because that was really
Yeah.
what I guess in some ways was trying to get at when I asked you at the beginning of the show about chapter one and chapter two. Because chapter
Yeah. Yeah.
one, you had your own island. Chapter two, you're now up against everybody who's now a chat GPT or AI expert, and you turn on YouTube and start your own AI business in a second. Talk about what it's like right now competitively, entrepreneurially. You're building your business bigger. Talk about the business side of life right now, Tim. Let's put AI aside.
So
Let's talk business now.
my biggest obstacle is the
Yeah.
fact that I am promoting a technology that many people have experienced a little bit, and that little bit of experience that they have said, "Yeah, it's good enough. I know. Yeah, I helped my kid write their homework with
Mm,
ChatGPT. I know what it is." There's no way we're going to have that come in and change our company life, right? So I'm up against the unfortunate ignorant principle that most people says, "Yeah, I've already got that. I already know what it does. Wasn't impressed with it last time. Won't be impressed when you come in and give a workshop." Not a one person who's taken my workshops doesn't come back and say, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea it does that." So there's a lot to be learned for a lot of people to do that. But I'm up against this whole ignorance. Says, "Yeah, I've heard of ChatGPT. It was in the news, came out, we tried it, and yeah, no big deal." And that's where I keep on telling companies, you got to watch out, because when you see your competitors' tail lights take off because they're doing things much faster, much better because they're embracing AI, it's going to take you 6 months to catch up. And those 6 months are going to be the most expensive 6 months you'll ever spend in your life. Whether you're a law firm that's renowned here in New York, and suddenly they're not calling me anymore to do contracts. Why not? Because they're doing it on ChatGPT or with other people that are helping them get there, right? All these things are going to happen. And if you don't start embracing it, creating inside your company a culture of AI, if you don't do that now, it's going to be too late when suddenly you have to do it because of competitive pressures.
but Tim, is it actually humans fighting for each other? So it's this subtle fear that I don't want to embrace these tools too much because it's going to take my job, or it's going to take Tim's job, or I don't want to. I don't want to learn because it's going to replace me. I've learned enough. I know how to use it enough, and I'm going to protect my humanity by with ignorance is bliss. Is that a fair statement, or is it truly you're
I
ignorant and you're being left
Yeah,
behind?
I really don't know anybody that is saying that consciously enough to say, "Listen, ignorance is bliss, and I'm happy where I am." I haven't come up against that.
But if you
Most
took,
people are,
Tim, if you took 10 people, sorry to cut you off, if you took 10 people and put them in a
yeah,
room, I'm
uh-huh.
gonna I'm gonna suggest that 88 or 9 of them are saying, what if AI can wipe humans out? Why are we
Oh,
building
I
these
see.
things?
Yeah, I see. I don't know if it's going to be 8 or 9 of them. I'm sure there are a few, right? That is, again, with new technology comes all kinds of change and transitions. We're all worried about what's going to happen. But let's just remember everything that was in those futuristic sci-fi movies, which I love to death, by the way, the Terminator movies, right?
Mhm.
All those in there, we gave that technology a certain amount of control and power over our lives. I think it's going to take a long time for the president of the United States to say, "You know what? ChatGPT, you're smart enough. Here, you take the nuclear codes and you take care of that and tell me when to launch." It ain't going to happen, right? We have control systems right now on our subways in New York. Not one single subway leaves the station without someone being on board driving that subway. We've got 737s have control systems on them right now that are so sophisticated they can land the airplane, they can take off the airplane, and we don't need pilots. But yet we will never let an airplane fly with not only a pilot but a co-pilot to back them up. That's just not going to happen. What makes us think that in the future, just because things and control systems get better and smarter, we're going to say, "Oh, we don't need this anymore. We'll just let it take over"? I don't think it's going to happen. Now, we can be so dependent on things that when they go down, that's much when they take over, when they go down. And by the way, I don't know if anybody knows this, but ChatGPT went down yesterday at 6:05 PST. So right in the AM in the morning, the systems just all went down. ChatGPT went down. And of course, OpenAI is very open about this, and they had a system that showed you exactly how it went down, but it was gone for about an hour and a half. And that's a long time to have all these systems down, especially idiots like me that have become dependent on it. I had this big presentation to give, and I was showing people how to use it in the accounting process. Oh, God, I need to get something out of there. It came back up again pretty soon after that. But we depend on these systems. So that's the danger I see. You get so dependent on them. Am I still going to be able to function if suddenly I don't have my cell phone? You ever lost your cell phone? Suddenly you think,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, what can I do?" Mine was rebooting on a new software. It was gone for an hour, and I kept on thinking, "So, well, I'll just go over to my landline." I don't have a landline. Oh, I'll just go use my wife's computer. My wife wasn't there. She took her computer with her. I was lost. I didn't even know what to do. So we get dependent on technology that when it's gone, that's our problem. But whether we're actually going to have it take over and destroy humanity, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Tim,
And
before
I do think, just like you alluded to that, right? This ability of taking away the mundane things that we have in life
yes.
allows us to suddenly broaden our ability to smell the roses more, to become more understanding what the value of a relationship is and how that valued relationship is going to make me a better man and a better human. That's key. Once we learn those things, because I have the extra time and I don't have to write or have to read essays or great essays or something like that, then I'm going to be a much better person for
Thank you for saying that, because I think that's the magic, Tim, and that's a really wonderful way to segue towards us wrapping up the show here over the next few minutes.
that.
I think you're bang on there. I think if we can teach our fellow colleagues, friends, family members that embracing these tools, because I'm on your side, I use the tools, and those tools are giving me time back. And as
Right,
long as I can use that time for the right things, which is my relationships, then it's a win for
right,
everybody.
right.
And if somebody listening to you and I say, nah, fuck, I don't want to go learn that. Nah, learn it. It's going to give you, go and embrace some of these tools. Don't just stop with a 1 sentence prompt or 2 sentence prompt.
Right.
Talk to it like you're talking to it. Here's one of the things I learned, Tim, just through life is I've dealt with lawyers quite often in my life. And when you talk to
Mhm.
lawyers, you got to speak with clarity. And because in order to get a clear response, you got to speak with a clear response going in. When I talk
Right.
to the GPT, if I'm very clear without assumptions, I get great feedback in return.
That's true too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. As
So
opposed to from lawyers.
as opposed to them lawyers. Yeah, isn't that true? Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So
They're
Tim,
always saying, "Well, let's bring a little bit more complexity into it," right? Is
yeah,
what they're saying.
yeah. No, thank you. No, thank you. So, Tim, before we say goodbye, I got two last questions for you. One really AI and community. So, how can AI be used to create or even elevate a sense of community for professionals who are seeking connection and support? There's this argument that AI is going to disconnect us all. Let's think about
Mm.
it using it to enhance connection and support.
I'll think of many answers right after the show, I'm sure, on that one. But I think the specific thing is giving ideas straight from other people that have built community. What do I need to do to build community?
Mm,
There's no question about it, right? ChatGPT is a single interface, just like a video game and everything else between you and that
mm,
computer, right?
mm.
You and that computer means you're not talking to your wife, you're not talking to your kids, right? You're dealing time with the computers. Don't get me wrong, right? There is a lot of that. Now, if you can sign it up and say, listen, because I've gotten my work done faster, I can spend more times, then I think you did the right thing, right? But I would always ask ChatGPT, give me some processes, give me some things to do. Let me tell you, one of the things that especially new dads get all the problem. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. What should I do with them to spend more time with them? I got lost in that when my kids were 2 and 4. But you can ask ChatGPT and it'll come up with some great activities. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And you're going to think, sure, why didn't I think about that kind of stuff, right? It's going to give you some new ideas on how to build community, build conversation, build games with kids, right? There's thousands of things you can do. All I have is a a pot and two spoons, right? What can I do with my two kids? And ChatGPT will give you a game that is amazing of what it'll think of what you can do. Now, then you'll have to stop with ChatGPT, put it away, and then go do those things. And that's what's going to build community, right? So it's not, but it's going to give you those ideas. How can we become better humans? And that's what that process of where I am now to where I want to get, map that out for me. Give me the steps, give me the measurements to get there. Don't just give me the answers, give me the things that are going to make me better. And that's, I think, the key of what we get out of ChatGPT.
Spectacular teaching, Tim. Spectacular. Tim, before we say goodbye, here's the last one, and it's a personal human question. We like to bring everybody in and consider them honorary Baplites, and because you're clearly a successful business guy, what do you do to take care of yourself? What do you do when you look in your own mirror? You go for a walk? Do you do yoga? Do you lift? What do you do mentally? How does Tim Miner take care of Tim Miner? Because that's really the most important question at the end of the day.
Well, I'm glad you're asking me this and not my wife. But let me tell you, no, I consider myself a firm believing Christian. So I spend every morning reading my Bible and praying for a long time in the morning. That has got to be reset. There's got to be a way for us to get everything that just junk that came into our heads from the day of the news, number one, right? And everything else that's going on in life, to get that out and then find out what is the most important thing, right? And those most important things, God's always told me the same thing. You need to learn to love people, because if you don't love people, you might as well forget everything else. I don't care what you're achieving, right? You need to learn to love people. And that's what I see myself progressing. I'm getting better and better at it. So we're getting there piece by piece. And that's what I do for myself.
Thank you, Tim, for sharing that. I started the show talking about the concept of vitamin G, vitamin gratitude.
Yes.
And you're
Loved
ending
it.
the show
Loved it.
with love for humans.
Very
Between starting the show with vitamin G and ending the show with the love for humanity through a show that's been themed about AI, I don't know how we could have ended it any better. Tim Miner, I'm really grateful for you joining me today. Tons of vitamin G coming from my side to you. Any final words you want to say to the audience that I didn't ask you about? Pump the business. You run a company, all the people. By the people. Thank you. By the people. So I'm going to stop talking. Pitch the company, pitch the audience, tell the world about your business.
It's all on our website. It's by the people altogether.tech tech. And there's the website that has everything about speaking engagement, webinars, workshops that you can do within your company, and everything else we do as far as consulting, anything on there. I'm on LinkedIn. Love to join people on LinkedIn and discuss these issues. If you have anxieties, if you have issues, if you have thoughts, you think, man, we're way off on something, let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. Let's get it all out in the open. Don't keep it for yourself. Let's talk about it.
Awesome. Tim, thanks for joining me. If you wouldn't mind sticking around for a quick minute in the green room, I'm going to put you off to the green room. I'm going to say goodbye to the audience and come back to you. All right. Hang tight, pal.
Okay.
Going to go here. Going to bring that there and bring me. Yeah, I'm just running by myself over here. Efficient. Hey, what a great chat with Tim Miner today, live in the lab. We talked AI, we talked humanity. We started the show with some vitamin G, wrapped up the conversation with Tim with some humanity and some vitamin G. Before we go, I want to throw something on the show for less than 1 minute to tell you guys what's coming up tomorrow, live in the lab, after the buzzer with Dale Weiss. We got part 2 of our 2-part show with Dale. Check this out. If you were to look back on younger Dale, would some of the advice you're giving to younger Dale and our audience would be, try to get outside of the walls of your environment, where you're maybe inviting other people in, maybe people that aren't part of your direct team? Would that be something you'd recommend to somebody?
That would be probably my first recommendation, is when we talk about looking into the future, and that's something a lot of young athletes, they just can't do. They hear everybody say you should look into your future and think about tomorrow. It never happens. It just doesn't happen because you're laser focused when you're in that zone. And having other people that are part of your team at that point would be huge to help you come all the way up from the start of your career to the end of your career, but they're not leaving you at the end. Those people that you've brought with you that are on the outside of the hockey circle, not your agent, not your teammate that was on your team here, not your one teammate over here, having someone on the outside team.
So that's coming up tomorrow, live in the lab. Dale's joining us again for part 2 of After the Buzzer with Dale Weiss. Hey, we got a ton of great guests lining up with Dale. We got JP Vigier coming up in 2 weeks, another retired NHL guy, played in the game for a lot of years. Great stories about, going to talk about his challenges in moving from professional sports to business. We'll get some fighters lined up, courtesy of yesterday's guest, John Graham Harper. We got a lot of great guests lined up on the calendar on the business side, the athletic side. You can join us, myself and our guests, live in the lab, Monday to Friday, noon Central, -6 GMT. We moved up. I got an extra hour. We'll see you guys tomorrow, Friday, with Dale Weiss. Have a good one, you guys.